So I was happy. But top 5 coordinators on the rise. These are guys who I don't know if they'll be head coaches again soon. One of them, I think, for sure. But a few of them might get at least huge raises to keep them from going other places. Number 5, the guy Baylor will see this week, Zach Kittley, offensive coordinator at Texas Tech. One of the other things that's helping Zach Kittley out immensely is not only that no matter who Tech plays at quarterback, and I know Donovan Smith had some turnover problems, but they seem to still move the ball. And that offense works no matter who's playing in it. Yes, Donovan Smith has made some mistakes, but they've also won games with him in there. They've won games going to their third quarterback in Baron Morton, who's their quarterback of the future. And it's just working. He's a star on the rise. And also Bailey Zappi is in the NFL right now for the Patriots, creating a quarterback controversy with a guy who was a first-round pick and a national champion a year ago.
At Alabama.
At Alabama,
Yeah, the graphic, I don't know if Tech sent one out. I didn't go and look, but well-timed if it was, after the first half, probably not so much after the second half. But, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a recruiting tool that you can use, and deservedly so. They put up some monster numbers together at HBU and also then obviously at Western Kentucky last year with Jarrett Stearns and company. But, yeah, there's no doubt he's one of the, the up-and-coming guys, like you said. Had a connection to Tech that, pushed him further in that direction of heading over to Lubbock, and just obviously a step up going from Western Kentucky to the Big 12. But, yeah, I mean, here's the thing about their offense is they've been able to do it with 3 quarterbacks, like you said. They've been able to do it without, a really superb running game. But they throw it 60-plus times a game probably, and they never punt on 4th down, basically. So – they don't like to give the ball over unless it's because they're kicking back to you. They're going to go for it on 4th down probably 7 of 10 times at least on Saturday. And that, if you're that effective like they've been doing it, it's one thing to do it and you're not effective, but when you're that effective in doing it as they have been, you stay on the field, you keep moving the ball, and you're going to score more, and that's what they do.
Yeah. I think Joey's only going to punt if they're behind the 30.
Yeah, exactly.
If they're behind the 30, he'll punt. If they're between the 35 and 45, he might think about it depending on the game situation, but he's probably going for it.
Analytics has really changed a lot of this stuff up. Baylor with what Aranda does. They go for it. I mean, sometimes inside their own 30. But, he initially he wanted to go to Abilene Christian, Kittley did, to play college basketball. Eventually pursued Texas Tech to go coach football and transferred there. And you know what? Sonny Cumbie. He was a student assistant to Sonny Cumbie. Well, of course, there we go. Of course, Cliff Kingsbury. And there's that cycle, or there's that networking.
The networking is actually, I believe, his father's the track coach. Isn't that right?
Yes, at Texas Tech.
That's
Hall
the
of Fame
connection.
type coach.
Yeah, is the national championship winning track coach is the main connection. Wes Kittley, I believe, is his father's name. But, yeah, then there's other stuff too. But, no, that's home. That's why he wanted to get back to Texas Tech.
Number 4, Alex Atkins at Florida State. This one on there because Florida State's offense is productive for the first time ever. Jordan Travis is really a fantastic player and really fun to watch. And something to note, Will Healy just got fired at Charlotte, correct?
Yes.
His offensive coordinator in 2019, Charlotte's best season ever, was Alex Atkins. So he will be looked at. I'm sure Florida State will make him a competitive offer to stay because he's doing a great job with the offensive line and the offense there. But Alex Atkins is a name to watch on the rise. If not for Charlotte, and maybe even an ACC job in a year or so, he is on the rise for sure.
He was at Charlotte as the offensive coordinator, offensive line coach for a year in 19 before going to Florida State. Yep.
Best year they've ever had at Charlotte was in 2019, and then he left, and what has happened since then. So I would not be surprised to hear his agent's phone ringing on that gig if he wants it.
You don't think his agent's also ringing other phones?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, who? Not getting the open big jobs right now. I know we're close to that. Charlotte's more up his alley. So, yeah, I think there's probably, if you look at the way coaching hires are going, there's only so many places for someone like Alex Atkins to go.
Yeah.
Where else is he going to go right now? Everybody's hiring big-name coaches or the guy who's already the incumbent or what have you. Nobody's hiring the Charlotte O-line coach to come be their brand-new head coach. So it's hard for, I think, guys like him that the market's kind of turned. Like there's fewer gambles on unproven, long track record, type of guys.
Which is why I could see him staying at FSU in the ACC and doing Power 5 for a little bit longer.
That's the problem. That's what everybody's doing.
Yeah, and then
they're getting paid better.
Yeah, and then you go, say Dave Clawson gets a job and leaves Wake Forest in a couple years. Then that's the job that maybe Alex Atkins goes to,
Yeah, I guess the most succinct way to say what I'm saying is, like, now you have, if you're Alabama's OC, typically you would go take that head coaching job somewhere, pretty much, like, not any job, but pretty much just a job. Now guys are like, if it's not Georgia, I'm not leaving Alabama because I'm making $10 million here already. Like, that's what it's turned into. But yeah, I mean, that Charlotte would make a ton of sense. And I'll be very curious to see their pool of candidates, because that is actually one of those jobs that there's not like that, like if you want to go be a head coach, there's an opportunity for you, but and he would seem up that alley.
Yeah. Number 3, Garrett Riley at TCU. I think TCU is going to maybe have to keep, and this would be a huge if Texas A&M head coach decides to hire an offensive coordinator, this might be the guy I would think he might go get, because this is a hot name.
You said if he decides to hire, if he listens to what he's being told to do.
Yeah, but he doesn't ever necessarily have to. But there's going to be, TCU's going to have to give him a raise, because their offense has been fantastic, and he and Sonny Dykes really, really work well together. And of course, we all know who his brother is, but that really has nothing to do with anything other than just good football minds. A lot of similar
looks to him. Yeah.
They're just good football minds in that family. But Garrett Riley, very much on the come up.
He's an SFA player. You know that? He went to Texas Tech and then transferred to play for a year at SFA. I didn't know that.
Yeah. But I think the job he and Sonny Dykes have done with Max Duggan is out of this world, especially considering that Max Duggan wasn't even supposed to start, and now he's, I would say, a dark horse Heisman candidate, but a Heisman candidate nonetheless.
You know who the wide receivers coach is at TCU?
Malcolm Kelly.
Malcolm Kelly, who, of course, Quentin Johnston last week said had an incredible impact on him. And I wonder what his ladder, I'm not talking about as a head coach. He's a great recruiter, obviously, played at Oklahoma. And I want to see eventually what happens with him. He's in a pretty damn good place right now.
Yeah. I want to know how much A&M would have to offer for him to consider it, because that's not just a slam dunk for them anymore.
No.
Especially not with Jimbo's offensive background. It's like, how much control would you even really give up? But I guess my that's enough of an obstacle that it would make you pause. Sonny Dykes is an offensive mind too, but clearly they're on the same page together and it works really well. Jimbo, I had no idea, but the thing of it now is, like, forget Jimbo. Let's say he's a defensive coordinator in his history and not as much of an offensive guy. What kind of money are we talking to pull him from the situation in Fort Worth that he has right now?
Well, I don't know what he's making there. That'd be a good – I'll find that out. Let's say it's what?
I'm just saying that's not a money whip slam dunk. Yeah. Like you maybe thought it was a couple of years ago for just about anybody that they wanted to go get. Well, we'll just go get the top coordinator. I think that the current environment – maybe gives you a little bit more pause rather than just chasing money and chasing the SEC job. You know what I mean? And so that's I'll be curious to see kind of how they navigate that.
And the other thing about Jimbo's offensive staff is, like, he's moved Daryl Dickey from offensive coordinator but not play caller to another position. James Coley's come back in and been the co-OC, and Damian Craig's had 3 different jobs in that offense. I don't know if you're on the outside looking in, and those are all guys who are Jimbo guys, but, if you want to jump into that.
Garrett Riley, he's probably not getting a lot. Maybe he got a nice chunk from SMU to TCU along with what Dykes wanted, but I just put up a story on Google, and it was in that, a couple $100,000 range. He was Appalachian State, I think, for a little bit. Yep, made about $220,000. So I got a feeling they can money whip him.
Okay.
But TCU, again, is it worth doing that to go to A&M?
That's my point. It's like, what are they going to do?
Saying.
Give you $2 million to just come to college? Okay, well, let me potentially do that. But if TCU's offering me 1.7, I might as well just stay in. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing.
He's not a young guy. He might be someone, like you were talking about, is on this list because of an opportunity to come.
Yeah. Number 2, Ryan Walters, the defensive coordinator at Illinois. Illinois, they are shutting people down on defense. They have a fantastic defense. Granted, they're in the Big Ten, and that's not a huge offensive conference, but even still, it needs to be noticed. So this is a guy, Brett Bielema, and what they've done in a short time there in Illinois is really fantastic for a school that's really an afterthought when it comes to the Big Ten. But but Ryan Walters in Illinois, he's also climbing up the charts.
Yeah, I don't know what jobs other than, like, the obvious, like, close by Big Ten. Like, I know Nebraska's a name I've heard him, attached to. I don't know if that would be big enough for them. I don't know. I haven't followed Ryan Walters and all that. I do know he's been
Would Nebraska money whip him to be the DC at Nebraska under the next head coach?
I think they'll do anything they can at the moment. I think that they don't quite suffer from the A&M sickness just yet of, like, you've done that now like 4 or 5 times, and it's clearly there's something amiss there. But yeah, I mean, he's a name that's getting a lot of love, and deservedly so, because the Illini are having a fantastic year, especially defensively. Curious to learn more about him along the way, because I'm seeing scuttlebutt popping up, and here he is at number 2, and that's certainly one of those names you see getting kicked around that maybe a lot of people are still a lot to learn about.
Yeah. And number 1, Kenny Dillingham at Oregon. Bo Nix was a roller coaster at Auburn, an absolute ridiculous roller coaster.
A turnover machine.
Turnover machine, but also, you know what? Down 6, 1 minute left. You need to complete 4 long passes. Somehow he can do it.
Yeah.
And Kenny Dillingham and Oregon have channeled that into an offensive juggernaut that they have right now in Eugene. And this guy's going to get a head coaching job this year or next year because of what he's done with Bo Nix, for sure.
His quarterback rating this year is 165.9. Bo Nix. He's thrown 3 picks. He threw 3 last year, but he's thrown 6 more touchdowns, and he still has not quite, but almost half the season left.
Yeah, he's done a really good job. Bo Nix has been great, and Oregon's offense is nasty. They were able to basically do whatever they wanted to against UCLA. UCLA had no stops in them last Saturday, and that was not a final score that was really indicative kind of how that game felt at times. But yeah, they've done a great job. Bo Nix is no longer kind of a punchline like he was at Auburn on so many occasions, and really kind of still was up until last week, really. I feel like people were still getting their jabs in over, well, if Bo Nix doesn't, and now you watch that game on Saturday, you can't help but just sit there and give the guy his props. So yeah, Kenny Dillingham deserves a ton of credit for that, and just the Oregon offense continuing to be lethal and one of the best in the country, even though they've had a lot of turnover at that school in the last few years, if you really think about it. I mean, Willie Taggart was once the head coach at Oregon not that long ago, dude. Mario Cristobal was head coach up until they've had some crazy turnover, but he's definitely one of the younger names. I Googled what was the guy right before Illinois' defensive coordinator Walters. Saw in a quick Google after we wrapped him up that Colorado was a name that people are wanting to attach him to. So there you go. There's another school that you could potentially look at. But yeah, Dillingham's definitely a guy on the come up.
A Jay Norvell type network. He was there with Memphis with Norvell. He was at Florida State, which and so. All right, Paul, very interesting.